Hi everybody, Marty Rubin, and I'm back for another segment of Marty's Corner. And today we have two guests. Matt Gibson, who is playing the very hardworking, workaholic, perfectionist Zach, the director.
That's right.
And now we have Sophie Hardy, who is playing the funny, a little bit scatterbrained, incredible dancer, very high stepping, easy to root for, Judy. In the hit musical?
Chorus
Chorus
line.
line.
Yes. So it's been so much fun. The first run of the show. I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
To get into Zach mode, when you're on your way to the theater, to Argyle Theater on the Long Island Railroad, do you walk up and down and tell all the passengers what to do?
Yeah, I'm giving
Does that
them
get you in the zone?
Yeah, most of the.
You
most of
over
the-
there? You over there?
No, it's fun because I just get to watch it and take it from what they're giving every night. So I just let them inspire me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you feel, Sophie, a lot of the times, Zach, the character Zach, is in the back of the theater, and his voice it's all consuming. It's like powerful. It fills the room, but he's telling you what to do. Is that a challenge for you because he's not like right here, but just hearing the voice?
Yeah, it is a challenge. You know, when we were in rehearsals, we had a piece of paper on the wall in front of us that just said Zach on it, and
Right.
we all have, this is a little inside secret,
Yes.
a little red light on top of the balcony,
Right.
and that's so we're all looking at one place.
Right. Right.
So I have a very complicated relationship with that light.
Yes.
You know, because
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, and then other times you're like,
Which is scarier? The guy that plays Zach or the light?
it's hard not to look at him because he's sitting back there with a little lamp.
Yes.
Well, that's the other trick is that there's not only am I sat there, but there's like lighting cues whenever they're speaking to me directly, but they can't look at the light.
Yes.
We have
Yeah.
to look at the red dot.
Right. Now, on the flip side, you're telling everybody, what to do because you're bringing out the best in them. But do you find it difficult? You're in the back telling them, you're not in front of them.
Yeah.
Is that challenging for you?
Well, it's interesting because there's I think he chooses to be out there. Like there's advantages to that as
Yes.
far as because what he's really trying to get is like some vulnerability from each of them. He's trying to find a company that's going to work together and also sort of like maybe low-key worship him a little bit and
Yes,
follow what
yes.
he's doing.
Right.
So there are advantages, especially with the people on the line he has relationships with,
Right.
or has worked
Which
with
we
before.
find out about along the way.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But as far as like from a technical standpoint in this theater, sometimes people are leaving and going to the bathroom or walking by as you're doing
Yes.
a scene. There's been times where for the Cassie scene, I'm completely blocked because people are entering for intermission.
Yes.
So that's
we
difficult.
do instruct the ushers to make sure
They're
that,
so
that
good.
they stay
The
away from you.
ushers-
you
The
know?
ushers are great, but sometimes people gotta pee,
Yeah.
It's very interesting as an actor to do a show like this because often when you're in scenes with people, you're talking to them right here, whereas
right.
I think part of the whole nature of this show is you're not in a world. This is the world. You're standing on this
right.
line. You're staring into nothingness. There is no anchor for you. There
Right.
is no partner to like work off of. You're just kind of, that's the whole nature of it, right? It's vulnerable. It's very vulnerable, just standing and talking into darkness and talking into nothingness.
Yes, yes. By the way, we last saw you last
Very
summer in
different,
Greece
very
at
different.
Cha-Cha di Gregorio.
Yeah.
And you won the dance competition with Danny Zuko in
Every
Greece.
night.
Does that impress Zach at all?
Yeah,
I mean, is
that's-
that like something that could be helpful?
That's on a resume. Yeah, you win the dance competition, then you get picked for the show here. It's
Every
everything in
single
our
night
bag.
I won.
Wow.
That was pretty nice. So you mentioned about that it being a unique show.
Yeah.
And I think about you trying out, when I say trying out, I'm a baseball guy, so it's trying,
Right.
auditioning.
Right.
So when you auditioned to get into a chorus line, not Judy, it's almost like you're playing the same part as you're
Yeah.
in the show trying to impress Zach to be, so what was your feeling trying to get the part, to be in the show?
Oh, it was crazy because it was actually my first audition back after a long time, which is, once you do like audition after audition after audition, you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing, I know how this feels, but it was like the first time back in a while. and I was like, I really wanted this job. I love this team. I see people that I kind of knew in the room, which is same kind of vibe in this show, because you like, what
Right.
relationships do you have with the other characters? And that dance is so like physically challenging, and I was like, you know, navigating that. But yeah, definitely as an actor, you know, you have very similar experiences to pull from.
Yes,
You know, when I
yes.
was Cha-Cha.
Life imitating art.
Yeah,
you
when
know.
I was Cha-Cha, I didn't, like, I've never shown up at an unknown school with an unknown guy, you know, to like do a dance competition randomly,
Right.
and then, you know.
We wouldn't have known it by the way you played the part.
You know what I mean? Whereas like I audition at least once or twice a week in my everyday life. It's very personal.
Right. I
Yeah.
think that's why everybody takes this part to heart. Like, you really feel it. Everybody's
Oh my
relating
gosh.
to this. You know, you're a tremendous dancer. You really
Thank
are.
you.
Your kicks are unreal. I don't know. You know, he's tough on you, but she's so nice. Why are you so tough on her? You know.
Oh, no.
But do you find it challenging to you're on one hand you're this unbelievable dancer, on the other hand your character's a little bit goofy, you know, is that a hard thing to balance for you?
A little bit. You know, the one thing I tell myself when I find myself falling out of character is like, no thoughts, empty brain. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
And then a lot of the times when you dance, it's that. It's like, empty your brain, just do the moves, you know? And
Yes.
then there's a lot of dancers. I don't want to perpetuate any stereotypes, but you know, it's not like accounting.
Right.
You know,
right,
you don't
right,
like she's all over the place, but she knows how to dance.
right,
She
right,
knows how to
right,
do what she's doing.
right. She can
So
zone
I
in for
just
that,
think
yeah.
like empty brain, and then the lines, they come to me and it's a little more like natural.
Right,
But
right.
as far as dancing is concerned,
Yes, yes.
she, yeah.
Now, you know, we very rarely get to see the vulnerable, sensitive side, you know, of Zach. What's interesting, a lot of the performers are intimidated by you. You know, you're a real perfectionist. For some reason, your character is not quite as intimidated by him.
Oh, that's interesting that you, I get the exact opposite.
Do you?
I think
Okay.
she's almost, I mean, she definitely like speaks up and asks questions, and I think that's because she's so intimidated that she like has to know what's going on at all
Okay.
times. You know what I mean? Like, oh, she misheard the number 44. Like, she's not just gonna sit there and like not know what is right.
Right,
You know,
right, right.
it's almost, she's not afraid to speak up, but I think that comes from her like nerves.
Yes, yes.
I try to like let it change every night, exactly like when everyone gets the show or doesn't get the show. I try to be a little free, but for some characters it kind of happens at the same moment for me most nights.
Right.
But I think right from the beginning, if the exercise is like getting them to talk and be vulnerable and open, she's one of the few people who I'm like, okay, good,
Right.
in the intros, because she's like just pouring everything out.
Yes.
She's naturally vulnerable because there's almost no filter. So I think Judy is one on his mind quick of being like, she'd fit in with the
Yes,
company.
yes. You know, it's interesting. You really demand that everybody tell their backstory, whether they want to or not.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important for your character, Zach, to make everybody tell their backstory?
Because I think I've been playing with, like, I think it's fun to think that he believes this musical is gonna like change the world, and it's a great gift he's giving. So he wants a company where everyone's getting along, and like I was saying earlier, everyone kind of kowtows to his word. He wants it to be perfect. So he's making sure he has like a company that gels, and to learn more about them, to see how they'll work. And I
Yes.
think that's like, Cassie surprises him because he's like, it can't be the Cassie show in this rehearsal
Right,
process because
right.
it's gonna have to be the Zach show.
Yes.
And then when she's like, I'll blend in, I wanna be here doing it, he's like, he believes her by the end of that scene. I think.
Yes. Before you put her through a lot before it gets to that point.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
for sure. But you do have that one vulnerable moment where Paul is doing his monologue, and he gets to you. Like, we don't see that side of Zach where, you know, he's telling his story, and you could hear a pin drop in the audience, and he breaks down. You know, that you come over and comfort him. I think people are surprised because
Yeah.
you know, Zach let his defenses down a second.
Yeah, I think the trap of Zach, playing Zach, is like he could just scream the whole time, and then that moment really comes out of nowhere. But he wants Paul to do well. Paul catches his eye really early on as a good dancer.
Yes.
And he wants him to share and be vulnerable, and he's a wall. He's not giving anything at first, and he's getting very frustrated very fast. That's kind of how our Act 1 ends. So he's glad that Paul goes there. It's like a really brave share.
Yes.
And then like they're in the lore of chorus line, he takes him upstage and whispers something to his in his
that's very
ear.
touching.
Yeah, and I guess like you can decide as the Zach what you're saying to him each night, and it can be different.
Yes.
Did you have any takeaway of what it might be that he's whispering?
I feel like it's reassurance. It's going to be all right, and you know, hang in there, and you're brave for telling us your story.
Yeah, and then some nights, if I feel like it, or another option is, you book the show. Don't worry about it. But then he falls down, so that throws everything off.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, but Sophie, does when you're Judy and Zach comes out onto stage, so he's not only talking the talk, he's walking the walk. He's showing his dancing ability and telling you all what to do. Do you think that gives him a little extra credibility that he's out there showing you that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. In my group in the opening, he like demonstrates, and I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? But I mean, in every audition, every night I kind of decide something different. Like, do I know this guy? Oh, this is the guy from XYZ.
Right.
Do I know his relationship with Cassie? Some nights I'm I'm standing on the side and everyone's doing their groups, and I lean over to Lexi, who plays Cassie, and I'm like, do you know this guy? Like, is he nice?
Oblivious, yeah.
And she's like, depends on the day. I'm like, okay, that's whatever. And then other days I'm like, that's his wife. Like, you know what I mean? Do I know the history?
Yes.
Sometimes you go into an audition and the choreographer, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the choreographer from XYZ, But I definitely think, he comes out, he does the combo, he's dead in front of me for the all skate.
Yes.
And it definitely gives him some credibility for sure.
We had a special performance today for the high schools.
Oh, they were so sweet.
It was unbelievable. The vibe was unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
They were so pumped and so excited.
Yeah.
And we did a question and answer after I actually asked you this question, and you're in the middle on almost all the dance scenes, right in the middle, and obviously you're there for a reason because you're so darn good, But do you feel pressure being in the middle? That you have to do it right for everybody to be in sync.
Yeah, there was a moment in rehearsals where, we have, I don't know if you can see on the stage, there's these tape lines. So every number, all the spacing, because in some shows it's like, the directions will be like, go stand by the table. And you're like, okay, but there's no set. So all the directions are like, okay, on this part, you're gonna go to number 1 on the seam, the mid seam, so stuff like that. And then the show, especially when we're standing in that line, it moves from seam to seam. And there was a moment in rehearsal where our choreographer was like, if you guys aren't on the right seam, just be where the center person is. And I was like, okay,
yes.
That's me. Like, I gotta be, on
Right,
it.
right.
And then there's the other added pressure of when we're standing on that line and everyone's coming to the center to talk, I can't zone out on the sides because I'm right there.
Yes.
I have to be in it the whole time and reacting and interacting.
Well,
and
you
it's
rise to the
fun.
occasion.
It's
let me tell
so
you.
fun. It's so fun.
So I have to give you a sports reference, right? As Marty's Corner fans,
Classic.
there has to be a sports reference, or it's not a true Marty's Corner. So I compare a travel baseball team when you're selecting an all-star travel baseball team. We call it tryouts, okay? In your world, you're calling it auditions.
Yeah.
But you're watching for the little things that, there's a lot of ability out there, but you're watching for the little things that make the difference. And maybe that's the reason somebody makes the team.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the reason that you'll choose them.
Yeah.
But, so I'll give you, for instance, if you're teaching how to make a relay throw to home plate, from the outfield to the shortstop to home plate.
Yep.
So you don't, the shortstop who's getting the ball from the outfielder, the home plate's back there. He doesn't catch the ball over here. and then turn his body and then throw, okay? Because that takes too long.
Yep.
So here comes the ball. You want to catch the ball, and as you're catching the ball, coming back here and throwing it. So now you have a stronger throw, a more accurate throw, you know, better chance to get the runner. I think, here's how I would talk. Here's Zach watching, and every body movement, one little head movement, you're on them.
Yeah.
You're not doing it right. It's all of these things. When you're yelling all of these instructions out and demanding perfection, what are you trying to get across to everybody?
Yeah. Well, and it's also not just in the dancing, it can be like in what they're saying as well.
Right.
Where sometimes I'm like, you're out, I can't have that. Like, one thing is Don says, like, maybe I'll get into directing. And a lot of times I use that as a nope, because there can only be one director in this room. I can't have you giving notes also.
Right.
But I think the concept for the finale, which we see, that's the part of the show that we see at the end, and that's why there's no bows,
Right.
is that by making everyone completely unison, no one pulling an eye, it's like a celebration of them as a whole. So it has to be perfectly in sync.
A real ensemble piece.
And the choreography is so exposing for everyone. Like, no matter what kind of dancer you are, there are gonna be nights where you're like, oh gosh, shifting weight there, or that double. It's like, so sometimes, like in my head, I'm like, they're out from the opening, or they booked it from the opening because it was so phenomenally clean how they did it.
Right. It's interesting to see in real life, would a director say that? Would a director say, I can see it in baseball, somebody watching someone who's a complete natural and say, that person's making the team.
Yeah.
You know, but so you look over and you see Sophie kicking, her legs are kicking to the ceiling, you said, she's gonna be right in the center, you know. You wonder if you prejudge a situation.
Then there's like, this is like totally exception, but there's been auditions for me, like going in for, I don't know, like song and dance band type roles where I'm not the strongest, like tapper picking it up in the room, but I've already like read and sang, and they're like, and the director might not have like the strongest tap background. He's like, I like that you kept up with the tap and like were clean, but you weren't showing off and adding your own stuff, because I knew that we could work together and build this choreography as opposed to you telling me how to do it. So sometimes things that you think you mess up actually help you get things.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You don't know what somebody's looking for.
You don't know.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the power to crush Judy's dream, or Judy's dream could take off. I mean, but you live that every day. Like you said, you go to auditions, and how do you, let's say in real life, Sophie, how do you not let a rejection crush you?
That's such a good question. Well, firstly, I think it's different in this day and age, partly because a lot of my colleagues, we have survival jobs. So it's not like if I don't get this job, I won't be able to pay rent.
Right.
So that's one thing. We all hustle on the side. But as far as dealing with rejection goes, a lot of times, the audition that you're in right now feels like the end all be all. I bombed an audition last week, and I had a pit in my stomach about it until I had the next one. Mm-hmm. And then that was the one that I was like, oh gosh, I hope I get this. And then I get another one, and I'm like, oh gosh, this one, the one that you're doing.
That's like the song in the show.
Yeah, the one that you're doing right now feels like the only audition you'll ever have.
Right.
But with experience, you kind of learn that there's more. There's always more. It feels like you're running out of time. It feels like, oh, there's a surge of auditions right now, and then that's going to stop, and there's never going to be another audition. But there always are. And so there's this website called Actors Access, which is like LinkedIn, or Indeed.com for actors.
Right.
And so if I have a bad audition, or if I get rejection, I will go home and actively apply for more. Keep going.
Right.
Yes. That's my thing.
I think that's some good advice.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, from your end, do you feel the same way that, if something bad happens and you don't get a job, that it gets you more determined, to get that job?
Yeah, and I think in the long
Did
run,
you out for Zach, by the way, for this job?
Yeah, actually, this was a funny one where I sent in a video. I think someone else booked Zach and dropped out, and then I was away for callbacks in London, and then I got back and someone must have dropped out, so I just had like a just me in the room meeting for it, where they're
Okay.
so they're like, I think they liked my tape, but they were like double checking everything before
Right.
offering. So it was a weird audition because it was like no one else is here for the role, but I had already like done another round without really knowing it, because you don't know how they're watching your tapes or what they're thinking.
Yeah.
But I think like exactly what she's saying, like big picture wise, you just have to keep putting your best work forward and trust that things that come through are the ones that the projects you're gonna learn the most on and the ones you're supposed to be doing.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you both for being on Marty's Corner.
Yeah.
It's just a pleasure to watch both of you. I have to tell you, you're gonna love this show. I mean, I'm not gonna be a spoiler whether Judy's dreams get crushed or Judy's dreams take off. You're a toughie.
Yeah.
But he's got a heart there underneath that. But come on down to the Argyle Theater. We are playing straight through till March 24th, and we can't wait to see you down here. Take care.